Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be taking a rapid-fire look at all the big news coming out of the Faroe Islands today.
Sounds great.
We've got our eyes on KVF, in.fo, and vp.fo. So, should give us a pretty good view of what's going on.
Absolutely, yeah.
We've got a lot to get through, so
yeah.
let's dive right in.
Let's go.
Okay, so first up, politics. Big shakeup at KVF. Yvonne Nicolaisen, the director there, has stepped down. KVF's calling it a farewell agreement. But in.fo is reporting that employees were pretty shocked by how the board handled the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Not a lot of clarity there yet, but definitely something to keep an eye on.
For sure, yeah.
Now, the pseudo-Yartunalin, still a hot topic, as always.
Always.
VPF has a whole bunch of opinion pieces.
Yeah.
Some people are all for the tunnel, some are totally against it, and then there's a bunch worried about the road development that goes along with it.
Okay.
Oh, and VP even has an article suggesting a whole different route.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. All right, moving on. The aquaculture industry parliament was talking about that today.
Right.
VPFO says that the government's looking into new spots for salmon farming. So could be some interesting developments there. And sticking with the whole economic thing, VPFO is reporting that the Faroe-Russian Fisheries Treaty, they've extended that for 2025.
Okay.
All right. Let's switch gears a bit. General news. In.fo has a super cute story about a new Faroes version of the Home Alone song.
Oh.
Yeah, sung by Margin Wolves.
Cool.
All right. Financial news. The National Bank, they've lowered interest rates again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, vp.fo is reporting on that. Have you noticed a difference?
Not really.
Okay. In.fo's got this kind of spooky piece about those mysterious drones that were spotted over the U.S. Still no explanation for those. Then In.fo's reporting on increased funding for student grants and foster parents.
Oh, and that's good.
Yeah, nice to hear some good news. Now on sports. Football, of course. World Cup qualifiers coming up. Heller Hansen, he's hoping for a match against England, according to In.fo.
Okay.
The European Men's Handball Championship is in full swing. In.fo is highlighting Hakun West of Tigum. He's playing for that German club, Hannover Bergdorf.
Okay.
And lastly, In.fo says that the Faroes women's handball team, they've just wrapped up their run at the EHF Euro Championship.
Wow.
Okay, and last but not least, let's talk about weather. In.fo is reporting that November 2024 was the second hottest November on record.
Wow, that's pretty worrying.
Yeah, definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
Okay, back to politics for a sec. KVF's reporting on the need for, more solid data on poverty in the Faroe Islands.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's hard to, address an issue if you don't really know the scope of it.
Exactly. Oh, and KVF also mentioned that about 13 billion DKK was paid out in salaries last year.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, let's hop over some international news now. KVF is saying that NATO's reporting, get this, over 1 million people killed or injured in the conflict in Ukraine. Yeah. And KVF also said that Antony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, he's warning about, possible new conflicts brewing in Syria.
Oh, no. It never seems to end there, does it?
No, it's really sad. Okay, back to local news. KVF's reporting that the Welfare Committee, they didn't back that proposal for free psychological services for kids.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then KVF mentioned that the whole process to take over the investment fund, that's finally done.
Okay.
Okay, let's see what else is happening locally. KVF had this report on their Bredenham segment, and they were talking about how more and more people are needing help from, support organizations these days.
Oh, that's concerning.
Yeah. And then KVF mentioned that the municipality of Tórshavn is borrowing 150 million DKK. Yeah, I wonder what that's for. Oh, this is fun. KVF said that the word of the year is long-term sustainability.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah. They also mentioned that, more people with housing connections are leaving the Faroe Islands than coming in. Yeah. Oh, and KVF says the opinion on the financial budget is being released today.
Okay. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, definitely interesting. And looks like trade unions are now aiming for wage increases. That's according to KVF.
Right.
Okay. Bit of arts news. KVF says there won't be any theater performances at the harbor this time. And looks like Ivan Nicholson, he's stepping down as KVF's director, going back to being a programmer, according to KVF.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. KVF also mentioned the Electricity Supply Act. They're going to be amending that in January.
Right.
And apparently it's going to be way easier to get new ID documents now.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's helpful. Oh, and for all the students out there, KVF says there are apartments up for grabs from Boostadir.
Nice.
Yeah. KVF did a piece on the experiences of student teachers, kind of exploring what it's like to work in that field.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And a little election update, KVF says the results in Skogvoy, they're staying the same. No changes there.
Okay.
Oh, and KVF wanted to remind everyone, visitors to Lilla Demon, they got to have a tour guide.
Good to know.
Yeah. Okay, back to international news. KVF's reporting that the European Central Bank, they've lowered interest rates by like 0.25 percentage points. Yeah. Wonder what that means for the global economy. Oh, and on a lighter note, KVF says the dentists have a new chairman now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. KVF has this interview with artist Hansina Iverson, and she was kind of reflecting on her life and career, and she said, it hasn't been boring.
That's great.
Yeah, love that attitude. But on a more serious note, KVF's reporting on this this issue of drug dealing happening on social media.
Oh, wow. That's scary.
Yeah, not good. Okay, music fans, listen up. KVF says that the Minds of 99, they're planned to perform in the Faroe Islands in 2025.
Awesome.
Yeah, that'll be a great show. KVF also mentioned that the Machinists Association and KAF, they reached an agreement.
Okay.
Back to politics. KVF has this quote from Top Skararan, who's saying that Liste, they're not getting enough in their share. Yeah. All right, sports news. KVF says that, like, everyone wants to face England in the World Cup draw.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, England's tough competition.
Yeah.
KVF also mentioned that the population growth in the Faroe Islands, it's still declining.
Huh.
Yeah, I wonder what's behind that. Anyone with a sweet tooth. KVF has a whole segment on tasty Christmas cookies. Just in time for the holidays.
Yum.
Yeah, KVF has this little news bit from Longyearbyen in Norway. They're saying that the town's not going to be expanding anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, and KVF says Saudi Arabia is going to be hosting the FIFA World Cup.
Okay.
And they gave a quick rundown of the handball match between Denmark and the Netherlands. Denmark won that one.
Nice.
All right, back to politics one last time. KVF says that a research director, that position still hasn't been filled. Yeah. And on KVF's Breadnum segment, they were discussing social media and, you know, how important it is for those platforms to, like, take responsibility for what people are posting.
For sure.
Yeah, big topic these days. Okay, international news. KVF is reporting that the director of the FBI, he's resigning. Yeah. And Russia's advising its citizens not to travel to the U.S. or Canada right now.
Interesting.
Yeah. And KVF also mentioned that 8 apartments, they're still not rented out. And a bit of news from Iran. Officials there are saying that the U.S. and Israel, they're the ones responsible for the downfall of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad.
Oh.
Yeah. KVF says that residents from Sandoy, they're presenting a petition to the prime minister today. Yeah. And KVF has this really touching story about a single mom who's, like, struggling to afford food for her family.
That's so sad.
Yeah, it's tough out there for a lot of people.
Oh.
Oh, and KVF said that the second phase of construction, that's been announced.
Okay.
Yeah. And for all you fitness buffs, KVF had Tony Dam on, and he was talking about how important it is to have a clear exercise plan.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, good advice. All right, so that's KVF for you. Let's switch gears and see what InDotFo is reporting today. Starting off with, they're saying that employees at KVF, they're pretty shaken up by how the board handled a certain matter.
Yeah, it sounds like there's some tension there.
Definitely. InDotFo's also got a piece about the Føroyar tunnel and lots of different opinions on that project, as always.
Right.
And they have all the details in the FIFA World Cup draw. Always exciting.
For sure.
Oh, yeah, they have their usual job listing section. In international news, they're reporting on a big attack on a Ukrainian power plant.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But on a positive note, InDotFo says that funding for student grants and foster parents is going up.
That's great news.
Yeah. And for all the film buffs, InDotFo reports that 30 film projects got funding.
Cool.
Yeah. They also have an update for customers of Føroyar Bank saying they'll have access to new digital solutions.
Okay.
All right, football fans, this one's for you. InDotFo says that Heller Hansen, he wants to face England in the World Cup.
He's ambitious.
Right. And they have an opinion piece with the title, We Must Be the Best.
Love that.
Yeah. Oh, and a couple of local incidents InDotFo reports. A rental car was involved in something, and another burst pipe in Tórshavn.
Oh, man. Those pipes.
Right. Always something going on with them. Yeah. But InDotFo also reported on this groundbreaking agreement regarding working time regulation.
Okay, that's good news.
Yeah. Internationally, they're reporting on Moldova. They're facing a crisis because of, like, not having enough Russian gas.
Yikes.
Yeah. And for sports fans, they have a video with highlights of a handball match featuring Hakun West of Tigum and his teammates.
Nice.
Yeah. And they have this article kind of cryptically titled The Empty Director's Chair. I think they're talking about KVF.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. And they're reporting on the release of, like, this award-winning children's book.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. They also have an ad for a course in IT security and one for a store with really good prices.
Okay.
Back to the KVF saga, Indotfo says that the board there, they've reached a severance agreement with Ivan Niklasen. Yeah. And they have an update on the technical department. They've got 2 new employees.
Okay.
Sadly, the plan for a national theater in Tórshavn, that's been scrapped, according to Indotfo.
Too bad.
Yeah. And Indotfo has a whole section dedicated to the 2024 municipal elections, keeping everyone updated on the candidates and the campaigns. And then they have their public announcements section, as always.
Right.
Okay, they also reported on a new collective bargaining agreement for Vaga Airport and another one for Føroyar and Posta.
Good news for the workers.
Yeah. And in the fishing industry, Indotfo says the weather hasn't been great, so catches have been down.
That's going to affect prices probably.
Yeah, probably. They also mentioned that 10 longline vessels, they're fishing under the Faroe Islands right now. And car sales, they're still dropping quite a bit.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, check this out. Indotfo says the world's first ship tunnel, that's been put out to tender. Pretty amazing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they also mentioned the deep-sea trawlers. They're fishing for cod, blue whiting, and haddock right now.
Okay.
Oh, and a heartwarming little story from Indotfo. Santa Claus and some carolers, they visited nursing homes in Vágar.
Ah, that's sweet.
Yeah. And some handball results.
Yeah.
Kindle won their match, and they're moving on to the semifinals.
Nice.
Yeah. And Indotfo says that the big celebration for the opening of the bridge over Stora, that's all wrapped up.
Okay.
They also gave an update on the women's handball competition, saying that everything's still up in the air.
Right.
Yeah. And they gave a shout out to Oswald Schiller Johansson for his 30th work anniversary. Congratulations.
Wow, 30 years. That's amazing.
Yeah. And they had a report on another handball match saying that Savoie, they had a rough first half and it cost them the game.
Yeah, it's hard to come back from that sometimes.
Exactly. Indotfo also has all the details on the World Cup draw, like the different strength groups and all that.
Cool.
Yeah. And in the world of chess, Indotfo is reporting that Gukesh Domaraju, he's the youngest world champion ever.
Wow, that's incredible.
I know, right? Super impressive. And in football news, they said that Vegangur Reykjavik, they lost their home game in the Conference League. Yeah. And they have an update on the key women's football team, saying that Ranva, she's going to be the assistant coach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Indotfo reported on the French men's handball team, their World Cup selection.
Right.
And they have a video showing Hanover Bergdorf. They lost a handball match in Kiel.
Tough game.
Yeah. And they listed out the schedule for those, like really important matches in the European Championship.
Okay.
Yeah. And Indotfo has an update on those recommendations from the hearing on the UN Convention on the rights of persons with disabilities in the Faroe Islands.
Right.
Yeah, that's important. And they have a bunch of photos from a ceremony where they were honoring Gerhard Lomborg.
Nice.
And Indotfo is doing a countdown to some event happening at Jarnir. Kind of mysterious, but I guess we'll find out soon enough.
Yeah.
And they had the economic news that the National Bank lowered interest rates again.
Wow. Again, that's like the third time today.
I know, right? What's going on with that? And they reported on the sentencing of Sanjay Shah. He got 12 years in prison for fraud. Yeah. And as always, Indotfo has a bunch of photo galleries showing all sorts of different events and things happening around the island.
Right.
Oh, and they reported that machinists, they secured a 3-year collective bargaining agreement.
Great news.
Yeah. And they reminded everyone about Gerhard's celebration in Skopun. Don't forget.
That guy?
And some construction news. Indotfo says that they're building a third house in Noruri Ahegnum. Yeah. And they announced a call for applications for projects in agriculture.
Cool.
Yeah. Good to see support for that. And another agreement reached, this time for collective bargaining agreements for machinists at SEV and IRF.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, internationally, Indotfo says that the Syrian parliament and constitution, those are going to be set aside.
Wow.
Yeah, big changes there. And in the U.S., President Joe Biden, he's issued 39 pardons and commuted the sentences of 1,500 people. Yeah. Locally, Indotfo is reporting on this initiative that's helping to shorten waiting lists at the hospital.
That's fantastic news.
Yeah, that'll be a relief for a lot of people.
Right.
And Indotfo says that the foundation at Skalhagi, that's being demolished.
Okay.
Yeah. And they reported on a meeting that was held to try to sort out the whole situation with the director of Kringvart Føroyar.
Hopefully they can figure something out.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And in international news, Indotfo says that the Swedish police, they've stopped investigating Kylian Mbappe.
Okay.
Yeah. And they have another ad for that IT security course and another one for the store with the great deals.
Right.
Okay, music lovers, Indafo has a video with a Christmas song by Sarah Björt Alec-Juni.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and another video with a new Christmas song by Paula Alec-Juni. So lots of festive kins out there.
Cool.
Yeah, and they have a video of Sarah Mahfoud. She won a fight against Danilo Ramos.
Awesome.
Yeah, congrats to her. And they reported on a concert at Rensari. They were celebrating their 10th anniversary.
Wow, 10 years. That's a big milestone.
Yeah. And in book news, Indafo says there's a book that's being re-released. It's been out of print for years.
I wonder what book that is.
Yeah, me too. They also have a feature on a couple who are building a tiny house in Dali.
Cool.
Yeah, sounds like a fun project. But on a less positive note, In.Fo reports that someone set a trash can on fire in a schoolyard.
Oh, man, that's terrible.
Yeah, not cool at all.
Yeah.
And just to end on a fun note, In.F had this news about a Faroe's version of the Home Alone song being released.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And they have a sports video summarizing Norway's victory over Switzerland in the European Handball Championship.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they have the results from the men's Fax Kondi handball competition.
Right.
Yeah. And they reported on a Christmas event at nursing homes in Våger.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah. And more handball news in that as the Kindle, they won their match and they're moving on to the semifinals in the men's Fax Kondi competition.
Nice.
Yeah. And they reported that the big celebration for the opening of the bridge over Stora, that's all done.
Okay.
They also gave an update on the women's Fax Kondi handball competition, saying that it's still anyone's game. Yeah. And they gave a shout out to Oswald Schiller Johansson for his 30th work anniversary. Congratulations to him.
Yeah, 30 years. That's impressive.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And they reported on another handball match, saying that Sevahoff had a rough first half, and it cost them the game.
Yeah, it's hard to recover from a bad start sometimes.
Yeah, you got to come out strong. And In.Fo had all the details on the World Cup draw, all the different groups and teams and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah. And in chess, In.Fo is reporting that Gukesh Damaraju is the youngest world champion ever.
Amazing, right?
Wow, that's unbelievable.
I know, it's wild. And in football news, they reported that Víkingur Reykjavik lost their home game in the Conference League.
Too bad.
Yeah. And they had an update on the key women's football team, saying that Ranva is going to be the assistant coach.
Okay.
Yeah. And Indapa also reported on the French men's handball team. They announced their World Cook selection.
Right.
And they had a video showing Hanover Bergdorf. Unfortunately, they lost a handball match in Kiel.
Yeah. And they listed out the schedule for those crucial matches in the European Championship. Should be exciting.
For sure.
Yeah. And In.Fo had an update on the recommendations that came out of the hearing on the UN Convention on the rights of persons with disabilities in the Faroe Islands. Important stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And they had a bunch of photos from a ceremony where they were honoring Gerhard Lundberg.
That's nice.
Yeah. And In.Fo is doing this countdown to some event at Jarnir, keeping it all mysterious.
Aha. Gotta love a good countdown.
Right. Keeps the suspense going. And they reported on the National Bank they lowered interest rates again.
Seriously, that's like the fourth time today.
I know. What's up with that?
Yeah.
And they also reported on the sentencing of Sanjay Shah, who got 12 years in prison for fraud.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And like always, In.Fo has a bunch of photo galleries showing off different events and happenings around the islands.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, and they reported that the machinists, they secured a 3-year collective bargaining agreement.
That's good news.
Yeah, definitely a win for them. And they reminded everyone about Gerhard's celebration in Skopun, making sure no one misses out.
Right.
Yeah. And some construction news. In.Fo says that they're building a third house in Noruri I Hegnum. Yeah. And they announced that they're looking for applications for agriculture projects.
That's great.
Yeah, supporting local agriculture. And another agreement, this time it's for collective bargaining agreements for machinists at SEV and IRF.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, in international news, In.Fo is saying that the Syrian parliament and constitution, they're going to be set aside.
Wow.
Yeah, big changes happening there. And in the U.S., President Joe Biden issued 39 pardons and commuted the sentences of 1,500 people.
Okay.
Yeah. Locally, In.Fo is reporting on an initiative that's helping to shorten waiting lists at the hospital.
That's good news.
Yeah, definitely a positive development. And In.Fo says that the foundation at Skalhegi is being demolished. Yeah. And they reported on a meeting that was held to try and resolve the whole situation with the director of Kringvarp Føroyar.
Hopefully they can find a solution.
Yeah, for sure. And internationally, In.Fo is reporting that the Swedish police have stopped their investigation into Kylian Mbappe.
Interesting.
Yeah. And they had another ad for that IT security course and one for that store that always has good deals.
Right.
Yeah. And for all the music fans out there, In.Fo has a video featuring a Christmas song by Sarah Björtalek Juni.
Cool.
Yeah. And another video with a new Christmas song, this one by Bala Alec Juni. So, yeah, lots of holiday tunes out there.
Nice.
Yeah. And they have a video of Sarah Mahfoud. She won a fight against Danilo Ramos.
Awesome.
Yeah, congratulations to her. And they reported on a concert at Ryan Siri. They were celebrating their 10th anniversary.
Wow, 10 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, it's a big accomplishment. And in book news, In.Fo is reporting on a book that's being re-released. It's been out of print for years.
I wonder what book it is.
Yeah, I'm curious too. They also have a feature on this couple who are building a tiny house in Dali. Yeah, sounds like a fun project. But on a less positive note, In.O reported that someone set a trash can on fire in a schoolyard.
Oh, come on. That's terrible.
Yeah, not cool. And just to end on a more fun note, In.Fo had this news about a Faroe's version of the Home Alone song being released.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And they have a sports video summarizing Norway's win over Switzerland in the European Handball Championship.
Okay.
Yeah. And they also had all the results from the men's Faxkondi handball competition.
Great.
Yeah. And they reported on a Christmas event at some nursing homes in Vagur.
Sounds festive.
Yeah. And more handball news. Kindle won their match. And they're moving on to the semifinals in the men's Faxkondi competition.
Cool.
Yeah. And they said that the big celebration for the opening of the bridge over Stora, that's all done now.
Okay.
And they gave an update on the women's Faxkondi handball competition, saying that everything is still wide open.
Right.
Yeah. And they gave a shout out to Oswald Schiller Johansson for his 30th work anniversary. Congrats to him.
Yeah, 30 years is a long time.
Yeah, that's a big accomplishment. And they reported on another handball match, this time saying that Sevahov had a rough first half.
Yeah.
And it ended up costing them the game.
Yeah. It's hard to come back from a bad start.
For sure. You got to come out swinging. In.Fo also had all the details on the World Cup draw, all the different groups and the teams and all that.
Right.
Yeah, always exciting stuff. And in chess news, In.Fo reported that Gukesh Dalmaraju became the youngest world champion ever.
Wow, that's incredible. He must be incredibly talented.
Yeah, seriously impressive. And in football, they reported that Vikingur Reykjavik lost their home game in the Conference League.
Oof, tough luck.
Yeah, I'm sure they were hoping for a better outcome. And they had an update on the key women's football team, saying that Ranva is going to be the assistant coach.
Cool.
Yeah, good for her. And In.Fo also reported on the French men's handball team. They announced their World Cup selection.
Okay.
Yeah, so everyone's gearing up for the World Cup. And In.Fo had a video showing Hannover Bergdorf losing a handball match in Kiel.
Tough break.
Yeah. They also listed the schedule for those crucial upcoming matches in the European Championship. Should be intense.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it all plays out.
Yeah.
And In.Fo had an update on those recommendations that came out of the hearing on the UN Convention on the rights of persons with disabilities in the Faroe Islands. Really important work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's crucial to make sure everyone's rights are being protected.
Mm.
And they had a bunch of photos from a ceremony where they were honoring Gerhard Longberg.
Nice.
Yeah. And In.Fo is doing this countdown to some event happening at Jarnir, keeping it all mysterious for now.
Wonder what it could be.
Right. Got to build the anticipation. And in economic news, they reported on the National Bank lowering interest rates again.
Seriously, that's like what, the 5th time today?
I know, right? It's crazy. I wonder what's going on with that. And they also reported on the sentencing of Sanjay Shah, who got 12 years in prison for fraud.
Wow, that's a hefty sentence.
Yeah, it sounds like he was involved in some serious business. And as always, In.Fo has a bunch of photo galleries showing off all the different events and things happening around the islands.
Right.
Yeah, always fun to see what's going on. Oh, and they reported that the machinists secured a 3-year collective bargaining agreement.
That's great news for them.
Yeah, definitely a win. And they reminded everyone about Gerhard's celebration in Skopan, making sure no one misses out on the fun.
Right.
Yeah, good looking out. And some construction news. In.Fo says that they're building a 3rd house in Norguriagnum.
Okay.
Yeah, so more housing options are on the way. And they announced that they're accepting applications for agriculture projects, which is cool.
Yeah, it's important to support local agriculture.
Totally agree. And another agreement reached, this time for collective bargaining agreements for machinists at SCV and IRF.
Excellent news.
Yeah, good for them. Okay, internationally, In.Fo says that the Syrian parliament and constitution are going to be set aside. Yeah, big changes happening over there. And in the U.S., President Joe Biden issued 39 pardons and commuted the sentences of 1,500 people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, pretty significant.
Yeah.
Locally, In.Fo is reporting on an initiative that's helping shorten waiting lists at the hospital.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that'll make a lot of people happy. And In.Fo says that the foundation at Skalhagi is being demolished.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they reported on a meeting that was held to try and sort out the situation with the director of Kringvarp, Føroyar.
Hopefully they'll come to a good resolution.
Yeah, for sure. And in international news, In.Fo is reporting that the Swedish police have stopped investigating Kylian Mbappe.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's that. And they have another ad for that IT security course and
Yeah.
another one for that store that always has those amazing deals.
Right.
Yeah, I need to check that store out sometime.
Mhm.
Okay, for all the music lovers out there, In.Fo has a video with a Christmas song by Sarah Björk Alekjuni.
Cool.
Yeah. And they also have a video featuring another new Christmas song, this one by Paula Alekjuni. So, yeah, lots of holiday tunes to enjoy.
Nice.
Yeah. And they have a video of Sarah Mahfood winning her fight against Danila Ramos.
Awesome.
Yeah, congrats to her. And they reported on a concert at Rian Saria celebrating their 10th anniversary.
Wow, 10 years is a long time.
Yeah, that's a big accomplishment. And in book news, In.Rifo is reporting on a book that's being re-released after being out of print for years.
I wonder what book that is.
Yeah, I'm curious too. They also have a feature on this couple who are building a tiny house in Dali.
Neat.
Yeah, sounds like an interesting project.
Hmm.
But on a less positive note, In.Fo reported that someone set a trash can on fire at a schoolyard.
Oh, come on. That's awful.
Yeah, totally unacceptable. But let's end on a more positive note. In.Fo had this news about a Faroe's version of the Home Alone song being released.
Oh, no, that's cool.
Yeah, should be fun to hear. And they have a sports video summarizing Norway's victory over Switzerland in the European Handball Championship.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they had all the results from the men's Fax Condi handball competition.
Right.
Yeah, lots of handball action going on.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay, so last source for today's deep dive, VP.fo.
Right.
They've got this article about like the mood at KVF.
Mhm.
Seems like employees are saying some recent stuff has kind of shaken their trust in the leadership.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. VP Bow's also reporting on a new book that came out, Ur Gamlam Readum. It's all about like Faroe's manuscripts from before the 1800s.
Interesting.
Yeah, sounds pretty cool. Oh, and they have a piece that's like totally pro Sur Jortunnelen.
Right. Right. Everyone's got an opinion on that one.
Seriously. And speaking of opinions, VP Balfoe says that 30 film projects just got funding.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, and they mentioned those new digital solutions for Føroyar bank customers.
Okay.
Yeah, should be interesting to see what those are. VP Alpha is also reporting that more and more people are needing help from, like, welfare organizations.
That's kind of a worrying trend.
Yeah, definitely. They also mentioned that salaries have gone up by 6% in the past year.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. All right, a bit of international news from VPFO. They've got this quote from Donald Trump. He's not happy about the U.S. sending long-range missiles to Ukraine. Yeah. And VPF has this article about, like, how there's no clear plan for visual arts programming at KVF.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, and get this, Donald Trump's been named Time Magazine's Person of the Year. Again.
Wow.
Yeah. VPF has this this pretty positive article about the new agreement on working time regulation.
Good news for the workers.
Yeah. And they also confirmed Ivan Nicholson leaving KVF. And yet another article about the Føroyar Tunnelen. This time they're calling for, like, a quick decision on the whole debate.
It's definitely a hot topic.
No kidding. Okay, so VP Fu reports that funding for children's welfare programs has been increased. And the National Bank, they lowered interest rates again.
Again. That's like the fourth time today.
I know, right? What's going on with that? Internationally, VP Fu says that Sanjay Shah got 12 years in prison for fraud. Yeah. And they have another article about the Føroyar Tunnelen, this one's suggesting a different route for the road development.
Interesting.
Yeah. VPFO also has a piece about a leadership development conference.
Okay.
Yeah. And for the holidays, they have this sweet little story about Christmas celebrations at the old Klaksvikchandelen.
Oh.
Yeah. And they mentioned a popular book that's being re-released, and they even included a recipe for Christmas cookies.
Nice. Gotta love a good cookie recipe.
Right. And to wrap up the labor news, VPFO reported on a new collective bargaining agreement that was successfully negotiated.
Cool.
Yeah. VPFO has an article that's like criticizing the government for wanting to cut travel subsidies.
Interesting.
Yeah. And a little entertainment news, they've got a preview of an upcoming Christmas concert.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and the Torshavn City Council, they're going to be looking at a proposal to build a skate park. And then there's this article about an OnlyFans star who, yeah, let's just say she was very busy.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah, let's move on. VPFO reports on those efforts to shorten waiting lists in healthcare.
That's good.
Definitely. Yeah. And they mentioned that a building at Skalhagi is being demolished. Yeah. And they have an update on KVF the board's going to meet to talk about what to do about the whole director situation.
Right.
Yeah. Internationally, VPFO is reporting that Israel bombed Syrian military bases and airports.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they're letting everyone know about a concert happening in Servag.
Cool.
Yeah. And Handball News VPFO says that Denmark beat Slovenia in the European Championship.
Okay.
Yeah. And apparently there was a pretty dramatic city council meeting in Vágur. Yeah. And the current mayor of Vágur, he's keeping his position.
Okay.
Yeah. VPFO reports on a well-attended meeting on Sandoy.
Interesting.
Yeah. And they mention how well Faroe's handball players are doing in the Swedish league.
Nice.
Yeah, representing. And in football news, VPFO says that a player who's played in the Danish Superliga, he's joining the Faroes club 07 Vester. Yeah. VPFO also has this opinion piece that's encouraging people to come back to the Faroe Islands and, like, help build a fairer and more inclusive society.
That's a good message.
Yeah, definitely. And they announced that Ilizar is going to be the new coach for the football club B36.
Okay.
Yeah. And handball, again, VPFO has a video showing Norway winning the European Championship.
Cool.
Yeah. VPFO also has this article about how tolls might affect the finances of Big Dallier.
Interesting.
Yeah. Internationally, they reported on this baseball player who got a 15-year contract. Can you believe that?
Wow, that's a long time.
Right. And VPFO is saying that they're getting ready to send Syrian refugees back home.
Okay.
Yeah. And they have a video highlighting the Dutch team playing in the European Handball Championship.
Nice.
Yeah. VPFO is reporting on this NASA image that shows that November 2024 was the second hottest November on record. Kind of a scary thought.
Yeah, definitely concerning.
Yeah. And they have an article about how it's smart to save money from child benefit payments.
Always a good idea.
For sure. VPFO also has an article about how those big tech companies, they're trying to get rid of illegal content on their platforms.
Good.
Yeah. And they talked about workdays in Ness municipality. Apparently, the ombudsman got 94 complaints last year. Yeah. And VPFO has some entertainment news. They said new episodes of Kloven, that Danish comedy show, those are coming out soon. And they're reporting on how Anders Behring Breivik's lawyer, he's refusing to spread his propaganda.
Good for him.
Yeah, definitely. And they have a video showing Fredrikstad, that Norwegian football club, they won their game.
Cool.
Yeah. And they announced that Vágur has a new archery leader.
Okay.
Yeah. And VPFO says that the tunnels north of Skjal, those are opening on December 19th. And they had some news from Famgen saying that Johannes and Arnie are staying in their positions.
All right.
Yeah. And apparently Skalavik still hasn't put together a municipal council. And this is funny. They have a story about this young guy from Sandavera. He's going to be on Paradise Hotel.
Oh, wow. Reality TV.
Right. And in football news, VPFO says that Bayern Munich, they're retiring the number 5 jersey. Yeah. And lastly, Local.fo is reporting that the Faroes women's handball team, they finished competing in the EHF Euro Championship.
Wow, we covered a lot today.
I know, right? Politics, economics, sports, weather, even reality TV.
It's amazing how much is happening in the Faroe Islands every day.
I know, it's really cool. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. We'll be back soon with more news and interesting stories from the Faroe Islands.